All right, so you wanted to know all about Pfizer.
Pfizer?
Yeah, Pfizer. We're talking their whole story from,
Oh, wow.
a little chemical company all the way to the massive pharma giant they are now.
Right?
We'll uncover how they got started, some of their big wins, and, of course, how they shaped modern medicine.
That's quite a story. What I find fascinating about Pfizer is that they've been around for almost 2 centuries. I mean, think about it.
Wow.
They started back in 1849.
That's before the Civil War.
Right. And not even as a pharmaceutical company.
Oh, so what were they doing then?
They were a fine chemicals business in Brooklyn, of all places.
Brooklyn. That's not where I'd imagine.
Yeah, not exactly the global headquarters you'd picture, right?
Not really.
It all began with 2 German cousins, Charles Pfizer and Charles Erhart.
Okay.
Their very first product was a toffee-flavored anti-parasitic.
Toffee-flavored?
Yep. And you know what? It was actually a huge success. Yeah. Thanks to Erhart's background as a confectioner.
Interesting. So a little sugar helped launch a pharmaceutical empire.
That's one way to put it. That early success was crucial, though, because it gave them the capital to expand.
I see.
And then, the Civil War broke out.
Oh, yeah.
And that really created a huge demand for medicines and painkillers.
Makes sense.
Pfizer stepped up, producing those essential drugs on a massive scale.
Wow, so they were already pretty successful coming out of the Civil War then.
Oh, they were definitely on their way. But what's really remarkable is that they didn't stop there.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, they kept diversifying their business. They even started producing citric acid.
Citric acid? Like, for what?
Well, it's a key ingredient in lots of sodas.
Oh, wow.
Pretty surprising, right?
Yeah, that is. So from painkillers to soda ingredients, that's quite a diverse portfolio.
Haha, it is.
But eventually they shifted their focus primarily to pharmaceuticals, right?
They did. It was in the 1970s, I think, that they really saw the growing importance of research and development, and they made a big decision. They significantly boosted their R&D budget.
Oh, wow. So that's when they started to become the Pfizer we know today.
Right. It was a strategic move that set the stage for their future successes, especially in the era of blockbuster drugs.
Blockbuster drugs?
Yeah,
like Viagra.
Exactly, Viagra.
We can't talk about Pfizer without mentioning Viagra.
It's the perfect example of how a lucky break, a serendipitous discovery, can totally change the world. You see, Viagra was originally developed for hypertension.
Hypertension.
High blood pressure.
Oh, good.
But during the clinical trials, they noticed some unexpected side effects.
And the rest, as they say.
And the rest is history.
Viagra became a global phenomenon.
It did.
And, of course, a massive moneymaker for Pfizer.
Oh, yeah. It was huge. It just goes to show their ability to recognize an opportunity and adapt. And let's not forget about another blockbuster.
Another one.
Oh, yeah. Lipitor.
Lipitor, yeah.
That cholesterol-lowering statin became the best-selling prescription drug ever.
The best-selling drug ever.
Ever. It's amazing. What's interesting to me is that both Viagra and Lipitor, they were initially meant for different things. It really makes you wonder how many other potential blockbusters are out there.
Yeah, just waiting to be discovered. So besides blockbuster drugs, how else did Pfizer become so dominant in the pharmaceutical market?
Well, a big part of their strategy has been mergers and acquisitions.
Mergers and acquisitions.
Like when they bought Warner-Lambert, that's how they got Lipitor.
So it wasn't just about developing their own drugs.
All right.
They were also buying up companies with successful products.
Exactly. And over the years, there's been a whole series of these strategic acquisitions. Pharmation, Upjohn, Wyeth, Medivation, just to name a few.
Yeah, okay.
That's how they've consolidated their market power and expanded into new areas.
Okay, but hasn't this approach also landed them in some hot water?
Well, there have been some controversies, for sure.
I can imagine.
Some critics argue that all these acquisitions stifle competition and that it drives up drug prices.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But, Pfizer's side of the story is that these mergers and acquisitions actually benefit patients.
How so?
Well, they say it allows them to bring new and innovative treatments to market faster.
Okay, so it's a complex issue with arguments.
It is.
On both sides.
Yeah, and it highlights the fact that in healthcare, there are always going to be trade-offs.
Absolutely. Now, their business model isn't exactly like selling, say, shoes or soda.
No, not at all. I mean, think about it. They depend a lot on healthcare professionals to prescribe their products. So it's not like they're directly advertising to consumers.
Right. So they're relying on the trust that people have in their doctors.
Exactly. And they've spent years Building relationships with doctors, hospitals, and insurance companies. That network is key to getting their drugs to the people who need them.
So it's effective, but it also means that they're vulnerable to changes in healthcare.
Oh, yeah.
What happens if prescribing habits change?
That's a real challenge for them. They have to constantly adapt to the evolving healthcare landscape.
Absolutely. They can't just rely on those existing relationships.
Nope.
So we've talked about their early success, their big drugs, and their mergers.
Yeah.
But to really understand their business, we need to look at their financials.
Absolutely. And to do that, it helps to understand how their business is structured.
Okay.
They have two main segments: innovative health
Okay.
and essential health.
All right. Break that down for us. What's the difference?
So innovative health, that's all about developing new drugs, vaccines.
The cutting edge stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They invest heavily in R&D, trying to create those next generation therapies, the future blockbusters.
High risk, high reward.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And essential health.
That focuses on selling their older products, the ones that have lost or are about to lose patent protection.
Okay, so those face competition from generics.
Right. But they still bring in a significant amount of revenue.
So it's a balanced portfolio.
It is.
They have the growth potential of new drugs and the steady income from the older ones.
Exactly. That balance is important, it helps to manage the risk.
Makes sense. But even with this balanced approach, I'm sure they've faced their share of challenges over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Every company does, no matter how successful. Pfizer's had its bumps in the road for sure.
What kind of bumps are we talking about?
Well, there have been drug development failures. Those are always costly, and it's a big disappointment when that happens.
Right.
And then they've also been hit with some pretty big fines for their marketing practices.
I'm reading about those. They had to pay billions of dollars.
Yep, billion.
To settle allegations of illegal marketing.
It's a reminder that even the biggest companies aren't above the law.
For sure. But beyond those legal issues, they also have to deal with patents expiring.
Oh, that's a constant pressure.
Yeah.
Once a patent runs out, generic competition floods the market.
And that cuts into their profits.
It does, significantly. So it's a constant race to develop new drugs before their existing ones lose protection.
So it's like a never-ending cycle.
It is.
Innovation, competition, adaptation.
Exactly. And all of that leads us to one of the most significant events in recent history.
What's that?
The COVID-19 pandemic.
The pandemic, yeah. Pfizer became a household name.
Oh, yeah.
Probably even more so because of their vaccine.
Absolutely. That was a major turning point for them.
Yeah.
Developing and distributing the vaccine with BioNTech. It was a scientific win and a financial success, but it also created a new set of challenges, of course.
Right.
I mean, they had all this pressure to produce the vaccine quickly and safely.
That makes sense.
And now we're entering a post-pandemic world.
Right.
And they're dealing with the fact that demand for the vaccine is going down.
So they're at a crossroads. They've been so successful, but now face a whole new set of challenges.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see how they handle this next chapter.
Yeah. This has been a great overview so far from, candy-coated medicine to the global powerhouse they are now.
It's been quite a ride. And their story's not over yet.
Before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, what are your thoughts on the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead for Pfizer?
Well, one of the biggest things they're facing is pressure on drug pricing.
Drug pricing, right?
Especially in the U.S. With that new Medicare drug price negotiation program.
Right. That's a game changer. We'll have to unpack that a bit more. But for now, I think it's safe to say that Pfizer is at a pivotal moment.
They are. They've proven that they can be resilient, and they've adapted in the past. But they've got some serious challenges ahead.
Intriguing. We'll dive into those challenges and what they mean for Pfizer's future in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. As we dig deeper into where Pfizer is right now, it's amazing how they're balancing things.
What do you mean?
Well, they have to make the most of their big hits.
The blockbusters.
Right. But they also have to keep innovating.
Yeah, to stay ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot to handle.
It is, especially in pharmaceuticals.
We talked about pricing pressures earlier.
Yeah.
What are the specifics impacting them now?
Well, take Eliquis, for example.
Okay, their blood thinner.
Right. It's one of their top earners. But it's facing more and more competition from generics.
Right. That happens when patents expire.
Yeah. Cheaper alternatives put pressure on the original drug maker.
And of course, we can't forget about the Medicare Drug Price Negotiation Program.
That's a big one.
Medicare can negotiate drug prices directly,
Right.
aiming to lower costs for people.
It's a good thing.
It is for patients.
Yeah.
But how does this affect a company like Pfizer?
Well, it's a huge change for the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, for Eliquis,
Yeah.
the negotiated price will be lower.
Okay.
And that goes into effect in 2026.
2026, that's right around the corner.
It is. This isn't some future problem. It's
Yeah.
happening now.
So how is Pfizer dealing with this?
Well, they're trying to prove
Prove what?
that their drugs are worth it.
Even with cheaper generics out there.
Yeah. They're investing in studies,
What kind of studies?
real-world data studies,
Okay.
to show that their medications actually lead to better outcomes for patients.
Sick.
Fewer hospitalizations,
I was saying.
lower costs overall.
So they're not just selling a pill.
Right.
They're selling a solution.
Exactly.
Showing the long-term value.
Yeah. But it's not just about their existing products.
Right. They need to keep innovating.
They-
To develop new blockbusters.
Absolutely.
But finding those next big hits,
It's tough.
it's a challenge, right?
Yeah, drug development takes a long time. It's expensive and it's risky.
Even for a company like Pfizer.
Yeah, even for them.
We talked about those setbacks.
The failures,
Yeah.
they're part of the process.
It makes you wonder how they choose where to focus their research.
Well, they're looking at specific areas.
Like what?
Oncology, immunology, rare diseases.
Okay.
Areas with unmet needs.
And maybe less competition
Right.
from generics.
Exactly. But it's not just traditional drug development.
What else are they doing?
They're also investing in new technologies.
Of what?
Gene editing, artificial intelligence.
Wow, cutting-edge stuff.
It could revolutionize how we treat diseases.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But we also have to consider
Yeah.
all things outside their control.
The global uncertainties.
The world is unpredictable.
It is. I mean, look at what's happening in Ukraine.
Right.
Disrupted supply chains, uncertainty,
How can they manage that risk?
diversification,
What does that look like?
a broad range of products, a global presence.
Okay.
So they're not relying on just one thing.
Spreading the risk.
Exactly.
And strong financial
Yeah.
to weather the storms.
Yeah.
So strong finances, diverse portfolio, and being able to adapt,
That's the key for any company.
especially in pharmaceuticals.
Especially.
Okay, let's talk about the recent performance.
Okay.
How are they doing?
Well, it's a mixed bag.
What do you mean?
They acquired Seagen,
Seagen.
a biotech company focused on cancer treatments.
Another acquisition.
Yeah, they're good at that.
They are. But what about their profits?
They took a hit
Why?
because of a charge related to an earlier acquisition.
Oh.
But if you look at their core business,
Mhm.
excluding the COVID stuff,
Okay.
their revenue growth was pretty good.
So their base business is solid,
It seems to be.
but you mentioned their COVID product sales are down?
Yeah.
How big of a deal is that?
It's something they're dealing with, for sure.
Yeah.
Demand for the vaccine has dropped.
Makes sense.
So they're transitioning
To a new normal.
Yeah.
Finding new sources of growth.
Right. They're focusing on expanding the use of some of their other products.
Okay. Like what?
Prevnar 20, their vaccine for pneumococcal disease,
Okay.
and Vyndaqel.
Vyndaqel. What's that for?
It's for a rare heart condition.
All right. And these are doing well.
They are.
Good for them. So they're not a one-trick pony.
Nope,
They've got a lot of potential.
they do.
But what about their older drugs?
The ones facing competition,
Yeah.
they're trying to get as much value out of them as possible,
Wow.
exploring new uses.
New indications.
Yeah,
Like how Viagra was for hypertension.
exactly.
Clever.
They're also looking at pricing,
Okay.
trying to find that balance between profit
Yeah.
and staying competitive.
So they're playing chess, strategically making moves.
That's a great way to put it.
They're always thinking ahead.
They have to be.
We've covered a lot, from generic competition to drug pricing
Yeah,
to global events.
it's a lot.
What's the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key thing is
Yeah.
Pfizer's at a crossroads.
Okay.
They're in a really complex environment,
Yeah.
facing some tough challenges.
But they're resilient
They are?
and they're adapting.
They are. It's fascinating to see how they're doing it.
They're not just sitting back.
Nope.
They're taking action,
Yeah.
addressing these challenges and looking for opportunities.
That's what makes them interesting.
It is. This deep dive has been really insightful. We've learned so much about Pfizer and the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. It's complex.
It is. Before we speculate about the future,
Yeah.
let's take a step back and reflect on what we've learned so far. We've talked about Pfizer's past, their present. Now, let's look ahead.
The future.
What does the road ahead look like for them?
You know, it's fascinating because Pfizer's future is tied to the future of healthcare itself.
That's a big responsibility.
It is.
It's not just about selling drugs.
No.
They're shaping how we think about health.
Absolutely. But the healthcare landscape is changing so fast.
It is. What trends do you see shaping the future for Pfizer and the industry as a whole?
Well, we're moving away from just treating diseases towards preventing them.
Prevention?
Yeah. Interesting.
And there's a big focus on personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine, what does that mean?
Tailoring treatments to each patient based on their genes, their lifestyle.
So not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Makes sense. And of course, there's the issue of cost.
Oh, yeah.
Proving that new therapies are worth the price.
Absolutely. That's a big one.
How do you see these trends affecting Pfizer?
Well, they've built their success on those big blockbuster drugs.
Yeah.
But now they need to adapt.
And are they adapting? They seem to be. They're investing in things like
what?
Gene editing, artificial intelligence.
Okay, so personalized medicine.
Right. And they're working hard to show the real-world value of their drugs.
Using data and studies.
Exactly. And they're even looking at new uses for existing drugs.
Okay, so they're tackling these trends from multiple angles.
They are.
But is that enough?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
Will they succeed in this new era?
Time will tell. But what do you think? What do they need to do to thrive in this new healthcare world?
Innovation is key. But not just any innovation. It has to be focused
on what?
On developing therapies that truly make a difference.
Okay.
Things that are better than what we have now.
Not just a Me Too drug.
No.
Something groundbreaking.
Right. And they need to be smart about their R&D, taking risks, investing in new technologies, and maybe even collaborating with others.
So be bold, be strategic, and be open to collaboration.
I like that.
It sounds like they need to be more entrepreneurial.
I think so.
Even as a big company.
Yeah. And they need to put patients first.
What does that mean?
Really understanding their needs, developing treatments that are personalized, and making sure their medications are affordable.
So it's a shift from just focusing on products
to
a more holistic view of the patient.
Yeah. They need to see patients as partners.
Not just customers.
Right.
It's a big shift for a company like Pfizer.
It is, but they've done it before.
They have.
I mean, look how far they've come.
From Brooklyn to a global giant.
They've adapted and innovated.
And they'll need to keep doing that.
Absolutely. Whether they'll succeed, who knows?
It's going to be interesting to watch.
It will.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
We've learned a lot about Pfizer, about healthcare.
Yeah, it's a complex world.
It is.
But fascinating, too.
Well said. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive.
I hope so.
And learned something new.
Yeah, keep those brains buzzing.
Stay curious.